Planet Earth keeps surprising us on a daily basis. There are countless places discovered on this small part of the solar system that are just impossible to explain. Some of these seem to be straight out of a science fiction film or a fantasy novel, but rest assured all these astonishing places we're about to show you are found right here in this world. You may have a hard time believing these craters from hell and sleeping towns, but make sure you watch till the end for the most mind-blowing locations on the face of the Earth that shouldn't logically exist, but they sure do. Before we begin our journey across the most inspiring places in the world, take a moment to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you're the first to get notified about our new releases. The Centralia Mine. Located in Pennsylvania, Centralia used to be a vibrant town bustling with life and activity. Coal mining was their main and thriving industry, but as it turns out, the coal that fed the entire town was eventually what became the reason it burned down to ashes. Nowadays, the ground under this ghost town is literally on fire. If you visit this place, you'll come across smoke being emitted from the ground at quite a few places. But how did the ground underneath catch fire? Well, it was in May 1962 that the contents of a local landfill were being burnt down. Accidentally, the fire somehow reached the coal mines below and sparked a huge fire in these mines. The flames spread across the entire system of mines and consumed the enormous coal seams running through the underground tunnels. Yes, whether you believe it or not, that's true. This fire has been ablaze since the year 1962. This means these mines have been burning for over 50 years. The fire spread so far and got so out of control that the residents failed to put it out, despite trying every method possible. Over time, the ground under the streets got hotter. The temperature reached a scathing 900 degrees Fahrenheit. It got harder for people to survive in these adverse conditions. By the year 1981, the graves of the local cemetery were also lost to this fire, and huge sinkholes had formed in the ground that were throwing out smoke. Taking into account the dire situation and for the sake of the safety of residents, the government bought out the city in 1992, and since then it lays abandoned except for the 7 people who refuse to leave their homes and still live here as the fire slowly consumes the town. The Fly Geyser. This unearthly-looking structure can be found on the edge of the Black Rock Desert in Nevada. This geyser emits boiling water on the surrounding landscape that's dry and desiccated. Now, this may seem like a miracle of nature, but this geyser is man-made. However, it was created accidentally. This fly geyser came to life in 1900 after a well was drilled in the desert, but the water that came out of this well was burning hot. This geothermal water source existed at a temperature of about 200 degrees Fahrenheit, close to the core of the Earth. It could not be used for human needs like drinking or irrigation, so it was capped off to prevent this scalding water from leaking out in the premises. However, in 1964, this water began coming out at multiple sites when another well was probably dug up too close to the first one. Though these eruptions were initially a series of small, hot geysers, today the largest one is about 6 feet tall and it keeps growing as the calcium carbonate in the water keeps solidifying along the sides. The beautiful colours of this geyser can be attributed to the algae that live in this hot, wet area. Gobekli Tepe. Scientists believe that humanity branched out to form a society in a very calculated and structured manner. They say that initially man invented farming, which in turn led to the invention of building and permanent settlements with a communal life, after which religion and culture found their way to these communities. But the discovery of Gobekli Tepe has left a question mark on this entire timeline. Situated close to the city of Urfa in Turkey, these remains of a 12,000-year-old temple tell an entirely different story about how civilization began. The remaining pillars can be seen having many fine carvings, mostly of animals like lions, scorpions and vultures. According to experts, this was a place of worship and is even older than the Neolithic structures including Stonehenge. But the most incredible fact about this temple is that it was built before humans even began farming in this region. How the ancient people who lived off of hunted game were able to become devoted worshippers without forming settlements and growing their own food is beyond the understanding of scientists. Some analysts suggest that this is some kind of a memorial spot or a spiritual site for the hunters to defeat their fears of the wild beasts encroaching on their territories. Others think that this site indicated that civilization came into being much earlier than we currently believe it did. Will we ever know? The Hess lights. These wild and strange lights dancing in the sky that you're witnessing were sighted in Hessdalen, Norway. This isn't a one-time event. Various versions of these lights have been seen hundreds of times over many years. They first appeared in 1981 and tend to occur in many different shapes, shades and formations. According to scientists, these lights may be ion Coulomb crystals, which is a type of cold matter that forms at a temperature close to absolute zero. This process is known for creating a whole lot of colourful light, but the alarming thing is that scientists have discovered increased amounts of radiation from the rocks below the sites where these lights are commonly seen, so there's a good chance radiation is involved with this phenomenon. Lake Karachay. This deadly lake is located in central Russia and has been serving the purpose of being a dumping ground for radioactive waste since the 1950s. The radiation pollution got so bad over time that the lake bed had to be layered with concrete blocks so the contaminated water and particles wouldn't seep into the ground and water supply underneath. However, this precaution came too late, as many residents of the area had already started reporting severe radiation sickness symptoms. There's so much hazardous waste floating in Lake Karachay that it's considered to be one of the most polluted places in the world. Guinness Book of World Records has crowned it the world's most contaminated lake. This lake has accumulated around 120 million cities of radioactivity, which is almost on the higher end of what the Chernobyl meltdown produced. Earth's protective bubble. This is a theory pitched by NASA. Humans have somehow accidentally created a cosmic shield around the Earth with the help of radio technology. No need to worry though, let us explain what this actually means. According to NASA, very low-frequency radio waves have produced a bubble of protection all around our planet, and this field protects us from the radioactive particles just floating around in outer space. VLFs divert these particles far away from Earth by applying a force on them. While this is the first time you might be hearing about VLFs, they've been used for a while in certain kinds of radio communications. They have the ability to penetrate deep into the oceans, allowing deep-sea vehicles like submarines to communicate with the surface. Well, this would seem to be a surprisingly pleasant accident, we have to say. The Mud Volcano. The Sidoarjo mud volcano first erupted in East Java in the year 2006 and continues to erupt to this day. This is not like the stereotypical volcano spewing lava and ash. This one throws up a much colder mixture of water, gases and solids. Though mud volcanoes are slow to grow at their peak, this volcano spews out about 6 million cubic feet of mud daily. So in 24 hours, enough mud has been thrown up to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool 72 times. These mud flows have also caused financial losses of about $3 billion and have led to the displacement of about 40,000 people. According to most analysts, this explosion was caused by the oil and gas company PT Lepindo Brantas that had been carrying out a gas drilling project about 650 feet away from the eruption, and the ruptured gas reserves around the site triggered the volcano. While some also believe this was caused by increased pressure caused by an earthquake that had occurred just a few days before the eruption. The Cocooned Trees. Floods in the year 2010 caused a whole lot of destruction in Pakistan, leading to mass displacements. Except humans weren't the only ones to migrate. Millions of spiders had to abandon their low-lying webs and climb into the trees. These poor insects were just trying to survive like everyone, but in their search for shelter they created some thick and weird-looking webs that cocooned entire trees. Those spiders weren't the only ones who contributed to these unique formations around the trees. Others like moth larvae were also involved. Besides Pakistan, this phenomenon has also been observed in Australia in 2012 when floods struck Wagga Wagga. The stuff you see blanketing the fields is all spiderwebs. These spiderwebs from the Linnafidae family release strands of web in the wind that then glide away. You all may be thinking the mud volcano was a joke as compared to flying spiders now. The Ringing Rocks. These boulders and pebbles present in Upper Eddy, Pennsylvania are quite musical and melodious as compared to other places. The rocks found in the 7-acre boulder field of the area tend to ring out in a bell-like tune when struck with a hammer. This phenomenon was so intriguing for scientists that in 1965 a group of them decided to crack some of these rocks open to figure out what made them ring. They discovered that all the rocks were able to ring, but some rang at such a low frequency that human ears couldn't pick it up. Some of the properties can be attributed to the freezing and thawing that formed the rocks, but that's just a theory. However, you can easily create a nice symphony using these rocks. Wouldn't that be a literal rock concert? Get it? The Stairway to Heaven. When you have to farm on the side of a mountain, this breathtaking scenery comes into being. What you see in the footage are the rice terraces of the Yuanyang County of China. This particular form of farming was initiated in this area about 2,500 years ago by the Hani people. The cut of these terraces approximately reaches about 6,500 feet above sea level, and thus they're aptly called the Stairway to Heaven. This ingenious method of carving rice paddies in layers has turned the slopes of the mountain into fertile land. After planting the rice, these paddies are flooded and farmers lower the water levels as the rice matures, and by the time the rice is ready for harvest, the terraces are completely drained by removing the barriers, just like a water slide. 40 Winksville. Kalachi is a village situated in Kazakhstan, and the residents of this village have been victims of a mysterious and scary illness. The locals of Kalachi would fall asleep suddenly and remain unconscious for days to come. The residents first began showing symptoms in 2012, including severe hallucinations and memory loss. Over the course of time, hundreds of citizens fell victim to this weird plague, and even the animals weren't spared, as local cats also manifested symptoms of this disease. This became so dire that the police and government decided to intervene and investigate. Was it some drug or some kind of poisoning? Though all the tests, including radioactive tests, came negative, scientists were left scratching their heads. Later, they did find a lead. The blood tests of the people suffering from the disease showed higher than normal concentrations of carbon monoxide. This was hindering the brain's oxygen supply in the victims. That's what led the government to realize that the nearby abandoned uranium mine might be the source of leaking carbon monoxide and poisoning the town. But there were a few loopholes in this theory, like for instance the mine had been out of order since the 1990s, and carbon monoxide is produced from combustion. And why was this happening 2 decades after the mines were closed? We hope they come up with a solid explanation for this weird sickness. The Blue Volcano. The peak of Karachay volcano of Java, Indonesia just looks like a usual volcano crater during the daytime, but at night the same crater transforms into something unbelievable. The mountain lights up with blue flames at the summit about 9,200 feet above sea level. This gives the impression that neon blue lava is coming out of the peak. But what happens is that the enormous sulfur reserved in the Karachay volcano, present in gas, liquid and solid form, escapes the cracks in the surface and comes in contact with oxygen in the air. This sets the sulfur on fire and it burns blue, and also at a lower temperature than other fuels, therefore creating this stunning visual. Though the sulfur is burning continuously, the flames are only visible in the darkness. The local sulfur miners use this nighttime blue light to help them navigate the area for gathering solid rock like sulfur reserves at night. Hoover Dam defying gravity. This popular tourist attraction of Nevada has some quite unusual features. Built to control and harness the power of the Colorado River, the dam is about 726 feet in height. For perspective, that's more than twice the height of the Statue of Liberty. The unique construction of the funnel structure of the dam that directs the wind into a strong updraft produces a fake anti-gravity-like situation. You can see in the footage as the water flows upwards, seemingly defying gravity. You can see a lot of videos of people testing out this cool feature on the internet. Would you like to try it too? Tell us in the comments. Glass beaches. Don't be fooled by the name. The glass beaches aren't called so because of the calm and serene waters that resemble glass. On the coast of Fort Bragg in California, the entire shoreline is made of broken sea glass. This isn't a beach where you can roam barefoot and feel the cool damp sand between your toes. You could end up with some serious lacerations. You may be wondering how this entire coastline became littered with millions of pieces of glass. Well, the locals used to engage in sea dumping. They threw almost everything here, including old kitchen appliances, glass bottles and even old cars into the waters. And over the years, these glass pieces have been shattered by nature's force into smaller, colourful, smooth stone-like pieces that now cover the shore as if it were a work of mosaic art. However, Fort Bragg isn't the only place that boasts of a glass-laden shoreline. Ussuri Bay of Russia also has a similar story, as it also used to be a dumping site for glass and other waste. But the strong waves have transformed all this glass into astonishingly colourful stones littering the Vladivostok beaches. The door to hell. In the barren desert of Turkmenistan lies what can be considered a literal portal to hell. This enormous gaping crater raging with fire is called Davarsa Crater. This nightmare is about 100 feet deep and has quite an intriguing origin story. In 1971, a Soviet drilling operation went terribly wrong and resulted in the opening of this massive crater. It's about 225 feet wide. The Soviets were drilling to extract natural gas, a resource Turkmenistan is pretty rich in. But the gas leaking out of this crater became a huge problem, as the build-up of this gas could poison the residents of the area or even cause an incredibly big explosion. They tried burning it off, hoping the gas would burn and vanish. but they had no idea how big this reserve of gas actually was. While they expected the crater to burn for a few weeks, then die down, what happened instead was that it continued to burn for tens of years and is still burning. This means it's been ablaze for more than 4 decades. Though there are no official records to support this theory or to prove that this incident was what led to the formation of this hellish crater. Maybe it's the devil's doing? Who can say for sure? That was all for today, folks. We hope you guys enjoyed learning about these incredible places. Do tell us in the comments which one intrigued you the most. We'll be back soon with another smashing video for you guys. Until then, have a great time. Goodbye.